days, and starting with the threats of getting cooler. And everybody has talked about how long our warm fall weather has lasted. But now it's time to bring our plants in from the deck. And so Gardener Carrie is going to share some tips about that transition from outdoor to indoor. So take it away, Carrie.
Okay, thank you. That was great, Renee. I love the yucca plants. I love house plants, and I grow a lot. And we're all thinking about moving them inside if we haven't already.
So just let me know when you want me to move the slides.
Okay, if you could go to the next one, please.
Okay.
So when you're moving your plants from outside to inside, there are a number of things to think about. So prepping your inside space, investigating your pots outside, seeing what you might need to repot, inspecting and treating for pests. You want to remember to transition them gradually. And then you can make cuttings. Some of your annuals or more tropical plants, you may be able to cut and root and water and enjoy in the wintertime, and then take them out in the spring and save a little money and have a head start. Watering, your plants are generally going to need a little bit less water, but you may need a mister to keep them humid, and fertilizing. And if we can go to the next slide, please. So you want to clean your windows indoors and out to maximize the light that your plants get. You want to clean your pots. It's recommended that you wipe down the outsides of your pots, scrub off any mold or mildew. And then if you were repotting, scrub out the insides and use 1 part bleach to 10 parts of water. And then you want to make sure you have everything ready. I generally like to do it out on my deck and make sure I have all of my supplies that I can just clean up afterwards. So you want potting soil. You don't want to use garden soil. You want a sterilized potting soil that won't have any mold or pests in it. You want to have your containers. Waterproof tray is something that a lot of people use for their house plants because it is drier inside, and you can line the tray with gravel and then keep that moist. The mister, and then you may, depending on what your space is like inside, you may want to have hooks to hang plants from your ceiling or shelves. I've seen some cool ones online that you can put in the window. And grow lights. I recently purchased just some bulbs from Amazon and have them in my regular lamps like behind me so that I can, especially as we've been home from the pandemic, I'd like to have green surrounding me when I'm working online.
Yeah.
The next slide, please. So in thinking about repotting or pruning, I think we're mostly master gardeners, so everybody probably has an idea of what to look for. But I know when I was a beginning gardener and hearing about were the roots too crowded or what size. So if your roots are getting crowded, you want to transfer it to a larger pot. If your plant's getting leggy, sometimes plants can get leggy, and so you'll want to prune them back. I had some coleus that I brought in, and I was able to prune off the top because it was just getting tall and leggy, and I wanted it to just be more compact and rounded, and I put those in water. And with coleus, it's like 3 to 4 weeks to get them to root, which when I looked it up, it was a little bit longer than I thought, but it's kind of fun because I have a bunch of little coleus around my house. And the next slide, please. So inspecting your plants, you really want to inspect everything. You want to look at the foliage, the soil underneath your containers. And one of the first steps that you can do is to wash them off outside and either wet them and rub them with your fingers, or depending on your plant, you don't want to destroy your plant by spraying it too hard, but if you've got some tougher leaves, you can do a sharp spray to kind of blitz the bugs off. And then another thing is to soak your pots in lukewarm water for up to 15 minutes, and that helps to force the bugs and the critters out of the soil. And some things you might find are worms or ants or slugs, moth cocoons. Some of these things like Renee went over are good, but we don't want to have them inside. I actually brought a frog inside a couple of years ago. which was quite the surprise that he had nested in there, but I guess I had a little pocket. And then if you're, say you're picking up your pot and you see a bunch of ants or you see something, you actually want to carefully wash all the dirt off of the roots and then totally start fresh. Typical pests that you're going to see, leaf dwellers, aphids, spider mites, scale, and mealybugs. Those are all smaller and you're going to have to really kind of inspect. And you can use insecticidal soap or horticultural neem oil. You're going to apply that on the entire plant, the upper and the lower leaf surfaces, the stem. And sometimes it can take a couple of treatments to do this. So you may want to do it, leave your plant for a couple days and then try it again. And you, especially with the horticultural neem oil, you want to make sure, you want to look at the directions for both of these products. They're organic, but some plants like African violets and things with fuzzy leaves are recommended. So if your plant isn't listed, you can test it and it'll take 7 to 10 days for the symptoms to appear. So you just want to do a section. Next slide, please. And you want to transition your plants gradually so you can minimize the shock. The outdoor and the indoor environment are very different. So you'll want to take about a week at least to do this and move your plants from the sun and then to the light shade and then to heavy shade and then finally inside. I read a couple of other things that recommended bringing your plants inside for a certain amount of time each day and pulling them back out. I know where I am, I back to the woods. And if I'm going to worry about bringing pests in, it wouldn't be very practical to be having them in and out. And again, given my frog experience, I'm not too anxious to bring anything inside. So your leaves can yellow and drop as they adjust to lower light. And, hopefully by minimizing and doing this gradually, that won't happen, but it still can happen. Most times plants tend to survive, but just something to be forewarned about. And you typically want to bring your plants inside before the temperature drops to 45 degrees at night. So we've had we had colds kind of earlier in October, and now it's been so amazingly warm. It's been nice, but typically when the outside temperatures are matching the inside temperatures is when you're going to be bringing everything in. And you want, again, the plants don't like to have a sudden shock and they like for their environment to stay consistent. So you kind of want to mimic what the outdoor lighting was. So if you had a tropical plant in a full sun spot, you're going to want to put it in a south facing window or do plant lights, and you can actually put it on a timer and set it. So for your full sun plants that like bright light, you're going to want to do up to 16 hours a day of light on them. Next slide, please. And then the cuttings, just I kind of mentioned this before, but you can root them in water or sand, and coleus and begonias are a few examples of what you could cut and root. And the next slide, please. And we're done. Does anybody have any questions, or what else do people like to do cuttings and propagate or root inside?
So you propagate begonias?
I haven't myself, but I'm going to try it because I plant begonias every year. I have some boxes that I am trying to grow. I have a brick patio and I have those kind of on the edges for screening. And I had hostas there and they got so big that I've put begonias in to just have some color. So just kind of the same way I think as you would do your coleus, you snip off and root in water. I personally like to root in water just because I can kind of see what's happening, and my kids like to see, and then I kind of know when it's time to put it in the dirt. And I do this like with lemongrass. I buy it at H Mart and root lemongrass, and then I grow that, and like green onion I root, and mint I root, and like Thai basil if I've ordered carry out to kind of root and get started.
When you're transitioning, have you taken your outdoor plants and put them into the garage or someplace that's sort of a mid-temperature between outside?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that, and that is definitely something that you can do. And some people who have maybe a bigger tree, I know my neighborhood swim club, we have volunteers every year that take some of the plants and just keep them in their garage because they're protected and it's not as cold as being outside. But you could certainly do that. That's a great idea. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention that.
Oh, that's great. Well,